Welcome to this video walkthrough of the Zelt expense management feature. In this video, we'll show you how you can set up your expense policies, how employees can request expense reimbursements, and how we can set up different settings for membership, i.e. who can use those expense policies, approval flows, so how the approval actually works, and lastly also how those expenses are then finally paid back to somebody. There's different ways you can do that. So let's jump directly into the app. So I'm logged here into a account of an employee. This employee's name is Sam Bonk, and if I want to request an expense, I can just click here on the quick actions button here, click on expense, and I go directly into the expense flow. Now I see 4 different expense types here that I can choose from, and that's because I, as Sam, the employee, have been assigned to those 4 different expense policies, and I can now, for example, go here and claim some client entertainment expenses. So let's say I went to dinner with a client. I can add here also the VAT amount on the expense, so you can reclaim that from HMRC. And that's here. This is dinner with client. Coca-Cola. You can make it required that people upload a receipt. So I'm just going to upload here a receipt. And then this request will go through a approval flow. In this case, it's a 2-step approval. First of all, here the manager must approve, and then here you also have a finance approval. I can show you in a second how you can set that. But I'm just going to submit this one here. You can see now here I have been forwarded into the money section of the app under the Me view. So I can see here now my expenses that are pending as well as approved. I currently have no approved ones. I have 2 pending expenses. Now that's my expense request done. You can see in my profile here that I am reporting into Chris Pringle, and Chris Pringle is my manager. So you can also see when I go into the expense request here, the one that I just submitted, that the next approval, so this is the first approval step, is from my manager, Chris Pringle. Now, I have the login to that account, so I'm just going to show you how that looks like from the manager point of view. So this is Chris Pringle's account. You can see here now under the action items that I have a expense request from Sam, which is this one, and that is actually this is a different one. This is a train to London. This here is the dinner with a client from Coca-Cola. It's pending. I can see here the receipt that was uploaded, and I can now go and approve or reject that request. I'm just going to approve that for now. Now, there was, if you remember, a second step approval needed for this particular expense. I'm an admin also in the account here. So when I go to the Money app, I can see actually here in the company view all the different expenses in the whole company. In particular, I can see here this one here from Sam that is still impending because there are still some approvals needed from either Daniel or Ainsley. I also happen to have access to Daniel's account, and Daniel is in finance. So this request requires a finance approval. So when I log into Dan's account, you can see here that Dan has an action item which is called also expense request from Sam Bonk. It's the same request, and I can now go and I can see that's already approved by Chris, and I can now go give my approval, and that now completes the approval process for this expense. Now when I go, I think Dan is also here actually he's not an admin, but he can see here in his money section, he can also see any pending approvals or approved expenses from his team members, but that's a different use case here. So now let me go back as an admin. So I'm now going into my I'm the line manager here. I'm also an admin in the system. So when I go back into the money section for expenses, you can see here that now I have a approved request from Sam, which I can search here. So this is the one that was just approved, and I can see that this was approved on this date, and I can see all the details of this approval. I can also see it on Sam's profile when I go to the directory. Here, there's a section here for expenses, and I can now see that there's this approved request here that we just approved. There's also still this one here outstanding, which is another, it's a travel expense request actually for a train to London. where actually I have to approve it as well. I'm just going to do that here. So that's also done. And now Sam has 2 expenses that are due to be reimbursed to him. That concludes the request flow. Now, if you remember when I showed you here, when I click the expense, there are 4 different, actually I see 3 different expense types here. That's because I'm now in a different account. But you can set up all your expense policies here in the settings. So you can see here in the subsection for money settings, there is a section for expenses. And you can see here the different expense policies that I've currently set up. In particular, you can see the one that I just used, the one called Client Entertainment. So I'm just going to show you how that looks like. You can give it a name. There's a setting also how you want to now pay out that expense. You can either pay it out via Payroll, or if you don't pay it out via Payroll, it creates a direct payment that you can link with your accounting system, and creates a payment that goes directly to the person rather than paying it out via Payroll. I'm just going to keep this as Payroll for now here. Then here in the member section, you can determine who can use that expense flow. So in particular, I've used here a custom rule. You can use different conditions. So for example, this here is a client entertainment rule. So you may want to use it only for, let's say, the sales and marketing departments, because other people realistically won't have to take out clients for dinner. Then here in approval, you can determine the approval flow that's required. You can see I use the manager and finance approval flow, and you can set up any amount of approval flows that you need. You can see I've already set up a few. So this one here is first line manager, then finance. This one here is first line manager, then department head. And this one here is first line manager and then HR. You can use auto approve. That means it just gets automatically approved, or just a simple one-step manager approval, etc. Yeah, these are the settings. So you can set up any new expense type here, and then assign people, and then people can use them. Now finally, the payout. So how do people get this expense get paid back? So when I go here into the money section, you can see there's an app called Payments. And at the moment, you see I have no upcoming payments here. There's also an app here called Payroll. And when I go here, so Sam happens to be in our UK Liverpool office, and he is on the UK Liverpool payroll. You can see I also have a different payroll set up here for other offices and entities. So when I go on here, I can see Sam Bonk, and when I open the pay run for April, in particular, you can see here that there are £300 worth of expenses in this payslip. That's because, if you remember, there were 2 expenses that I approved. There was a client dinner for £150, and there was also a train to London for £150. So that is because I chose here in the settings for that expense that this expense should be paid out via payroll. Now, you don't have to do that. You can also do direct payments. The difference is that basically you do less payments and it's included on the payslip. So when I, let's say, let me just lock this pay run here. So locking means now I've created the payment instructions, and when I go to Sam's profile, you can see here in the salary tab under his April payslip, you can see here now the expense items that are added to his payslip, and a result, his net payment is increased by those payment amounts. Now the alternative way is to create direct payments. Let's use a different expense here to show that. So for example, equipment expenses here, I used a different payment method, which is direct payment, and I will link it in my accounting system to an accounting code 820. Now when I go through an approval flow for this type of expense, something else happens, and I can show you how that works. I'm just going to do this myself here. I'm going to request some equipment expense, and let's say I bought a monitor for £180. I'm adding some VAT here as well. And I'm going to add my receipt. And I've now requested this. Because I'm an admin in the account, I can also I can now approve it. I'm actually the approver here for myself, but as an admin I can always overwrite and force approve anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that for now. So you can see now I have this approved equipment expense here from Chris that is here, and when I go into the payment section, I can see now that there's a new payment that was generated for Chris, and that is this expense payment here. And when I click on it, I can see that the payment is still outstanding, and I can see Chris's current bank details here. I can see also the expense that this payment relates to, so I can open that here and just check the details of that expense if I want to. And finance can now go in at the end of the week or the end of the month, whenever they're doing their pay runs, can go and make all the outstanding payments. And this could be payroll payments, expense payments, invoice payments, and any other sort of payments that were created in the current pay period. And yeah, finance can just now go in and say, okay, I want to go and make a bunch of payments. They can just select them and then send it to the bank from here. And once those payments are made, I'm just going to skip this for now. The status of the payment will be updated. So right now it says, because I aborted the flow, but if you go through and actually confirm those payments in your bank, these statuses will go to paid, and they will disappear here from the outstanding payments list, and you'll be able to find them here in the paid payments. Yeah, that's everything in the expense flow. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions on this. My email is ckp@zelt.app. I'll include it into the description of the video as well. And if you want to see this in action yourself, feel free to book a demo. You can go to our website to zelt.app. At the top right corner, there's a button to book a demo, and yeah, we can show you the functionality also live. And until then, have a great day. Take care.